One of the hallmarks of a person who's had a very profoundly deep and integrated embodied awakening is their utter ordinariness. So much so that it's hardly noticeable. It's very similar to when you look at something in nature and it's so itself, you know, anything that is of the natural world. Human beings are of the natural world, but unfortunately, we have this veil that covers over our understanding of how one we are with everything, with all life, which which confuses the system and creates an out of syncness personality, an identity, a belief in being something other than what's natural. And that does not come across in the same way as a tree, an animal that doesn't have that separate self sense, right? And it's things that are one within themselves and not believing in being separate, no self awareness to complicate matters. It is simply the isness of itself. It simply is. And that is so complete and whole. And it also appears very, very ordinary as a result because it is itself. So it's not special, it's completely in its true nature. It's in sync with its true nature. And human beings, when there's a deep, abiding awakening that has penetrated the human to a vast degree, will also be living out its true nature. We could say there, but it's not a person anymore, right? It's just nature as a human being, just like nature of a tree is living out its treeness, right? So the human being is living out its nature. And what follows is a complete naturalness and integratedness that shows up, you know? And for those with the eyes to see, they can see, and I can see when someone's living really deeply embedded, like, just kind of like this, embedded in within themselves as that, in their true nature, as true nature, uh, still within the human being flavor that they may be, and personality flavor, the conditioning that still may be here, that doesn't need to all go away. As far as I can tell, it doesn't. What remains, hopefully, is that which is in sync and gets refined, and it becomes ever more purified, I suppose, and less harming. But it still can have the quirkiness and the uniqueness that you or whomever has. Okay. But I really wanted to touch on the ordinariness. The ordinariness. And something can be so itself that with the eyes to see, when we take the time to see, like the beauty of a flower, of a mountain in its solidness, of a sunset, it's not so ordinary because we get perhaps pulled in and become still inside and see what it is beautiful. And what it is whole. And so itself that it could be missed, right? So often we miss the beauty of things. It's natural. We can't always be focusing on, oh, how beautiful is this? How beautiful is that? But there is an awe that that arises often, and I feel it just looking at things in nature when there's time to do so, when I take the time to do so. Oh, the preciousness, of life. So it doesn't just pass us by. The ordinariness is sublime, right? The sublimeness of ordinariness, of the moment. It's so, the moment itself is so itself. And it flows into another moment, which is so itself. And it can be passed by to the end of one's life suddenly, that we're at the end of our life, let's say. And there's this recognition of how amazing the ordinariness of every day and every moment and every encounter and how everyone really is. What everyone, whether there's been an understanding about an abiding and living of one's true nature or not, is still precious in that. It's still that. It's still the divine. And there comes a time when you wouldn't want to miss any of it. You wouldn't want to miss it. And you might not even know what the word bored means anymore. I spoke about this with my daughter the other day. I said, I don't get bored. I might be, kind of waiting, maybe in a waiting room somewhere. That happens, right? Um, but bored, no. Maybe there's something that I would rather do. Okay, that's okay. You don't want to pretend that something's not happening. And bored is not even bad, but what is bored? Perhaps bored is a portal. I've heard that before in different ways. Bored is a portal to being here more fully and sensing and feeling what's here. There's a moment. Oh, goodness. How lucky. I get to be bored, which means not much is going on, probably, if you're bored. Or maybe you're with somebody that you're not enjoying it so much. But that's information too. That gives you information. I think that some of the most spectacular teachers in the human that I've met have appeared very ordinary. But you can also sense because we're sensitive, you can also sense there's more going on here. If one is willing to open to that, to looking more deeply, just like looking more deeply at anything in nature, looking more deeply, and you see the variety in the bark, and you see the little creatures living in the tree, and you see how it's leaning a certain way, and how one part of the tree may be more healthy than another. And you can sense maybe the energy transmission of the tree. The same, so suddenly it's extraordinary because we are placing our attention, our own sense of being able to be in awe, which is in wonder, and stop just moving on to the next thing, and just rest. Then stop on anything and realize, oh, that is actually touching me with its beauty, with its simplicity, with its profundity, with its starkness, with its malaise. Maybe it's not doing so well in a certain area of the tree. It's a refuge here for this bird. Whatever is going on. We let ourselves be touched by this ordinariness that we normally would label ordinary. So, what's really ordinary? Anything that is being itself fully, without imagination, that it is something else, which is what identity is. The self, separate self is imagination. And it's so itself that it's easy to overlook. And that's the same exact thing with presence, your being, your true nature, what you are. It's so ordinary because it's so whole and natural in what you are that it's easy to overlook. So I started off with saying about human beings who may be embodying that and easy to be overlooked. It happens. Probably happens almost every day we pass somebody by, maybe. They're so integrated, it doesn't, they're not teaching, they're not doing anything, they're just themselves. We pass by nature and things that are whole and naturally itself, simply here. And until we pay attention, we don't notice it, how extraordinary anything is. And then finally, the ordinariness of our own true nature that we overlook because we're looking for something extraordinary. We're looking for something very special, very unique, different from here now, different from what this is presenting, this moment as it is. We're looking for another moment to prove to us that there's something called truth and reality and enlightenment. It's got to enlighten the moment. Well, the enlightened moment is being awake to the fact that it's here. What's here is always here. The sameness that's always you. The sameness that's been you since you were little and now you're getting older. The sameness, right? You know something's the same, been the same the whole time. And it's just easy to overlook because it's always been here, right? And that's why they talk about the background moving from what presence being, moving from the background, coming to the foreground and revealing itself and realizing it's always been here. And it feels extraordinary because their attention's being placed on it. It's suddenly like, oh, aha, there's an awakening to it, waking up to what's always been here, awakening to it. And it has an extraordinariness to it. And then over time, that becomes naturalized, just like anything, like when you're in a new relationship or new job or get a new car, just bring it to something really basic. It's really special at first, right? And then it becomes ordinary. It's the same thing with realizing your true nature. But it's less that you get tired of it or it recedes to the background versus it becomes naturalized in this case and integrated into your everyday life and into your every moment. Then it is it's awake. It's very, very special for a good while, and that's what a lot of people who are wanting to share from that place is because it's really, really delightful and special. It's kind of like, wow, look at what I found. Wow, and saying it to oneself too. Gosh, everything is so different now in a way, but it becomes naturalized because you're being your true self, nature. And it's not always going to have that ring and the tone of how special this is. Okay. Because it's meant to integrate. And then it's just like the tree being a tree. It's a human being the human, you being that as that with your particular flavor, right? But the ordinariness goes away after, I mean, not the ordinariness, sorry, the spectacularness of it. And then it becomes ordinary. Like for me, I don't even think about it. Only time I ever think about it is when I talk about it with my students or clients or whomever you want to say. I'm about to lead a retreat. It's going to be 7 days of talking about the ordinary something that's become ordinary here, and remembering the awakening journey and supporting, and also the delight. We get to feel again the delight through others too, like the newfound newness, like a newfound newness of the baby Buddha. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that baby Buddha, being a baby Buddha and being a little tipsy and full of wonder. Now it's just the living of it. It's not like, oh, it's bland. Oh, heck no. There's nothing bland about this, nothing boring. No. But there's no comparison anymore to what was. So when the comparison ends to what was, the specialness of what is blends. So it's just this, and every moment is alive. It's very alive. It's not ordinary in the sense of boring. It's ordinary in that it's what is, and it's full of life, and it's the way that we are meant to live, just like anything of nature that is intrinsically whole and has no doubt, because there's no separate self there wondering about it. Okay, I think you get the picture. So placing your attention on what's always here, looking over your shoulder a little bit. Is it where is presence here now? Is being here now, awareness here now? And have that what's in the background move to the foreground. And do that over and over and over again so that you are not missing what's always here. And overlooking something that you take for granted, we all do, what's always here. All right. Warm wishes. Be well.